Gang, this one was special. I guess I've been really into the musical genre for anime recently. Unlike Tactop Destiny, I had pretty high expectations going in for Vivy. The main reason is because the writers of ReZero also did the writing for this anime, and ReZero's goated, so this is an expectation to have for me. And gang, not only did this anime deliver on the great story, this is also arguably one of the most beautiful anime I've ever watched, and I'm not exaggerating. This anime was gorgeous, full of these grand emotional ass moments with its super flashy and well choreographed fight scenes, beautiful action sequences, and beautiful musical performances. Vivy has left me speechless numerous times throughout my watch. I'm happy to share my experience with you with this absolute gem, so without further ado, let's dive into Vivy Fluorite Eyes song. So, you know how we do things around here. First, we start off with the story. The storytelling in Vivy was actually super unique, and it presents itself in a very untraditional way. The story starts off 100 years into the future. For the past 100 years, there have been a few major events that's caused tension to build up between humans and AI. AI are a real big part of this story, by the way. There's this huge massacre that occurs with like 10,000 humans dying, I believe. Before this doctor dies, gets killed by these AI, he sends this AI named Matsumoto to find this songstress AI named Diva. In the past, 100 years in the past. Her goal is to sing on the main stage and to make everyone happy with her singing, and sing with all her heart. The doctor has this operation called Singularity that prevents the eventual war breaking out between AI and humans. And there are these events called Singularity points that need to be stopped to change the outcome. So it's Matsumoto and Vivy's job to stop these Singularity points. So we're going to talk about each of them because they're both their own section of the story. Well, they're all their own section of the story. The first event was the assassination of Aikawa Yoichi. This part was so fire in my opinion, and it was a great way to start the anime. We meet Vivy or Diva depending on who's in the body at that current point in time, and we're introduced to Matsumoto, an AI that's trying to help her prevent that unfortunate future from happening. The first mission was to stop the assassination of this AI enthusiast named Aikawa. He's being targeted by this anti-AI terrorist group named Toke. These episodes are pretty phenomenal in my opinion. This section pretty much gave us insight on the current standings between AI and humans and how things already look like they're going in the bad direction. This sequence was super action-packed, and it kind of planted seeds for the next sequence, which was really cool and a really nice touch story-wise. They ended up saving him, but in the process, Vivy ends up saving one of the members of Toke, which plays a big role in the next sequence, which is the Sunrise Space Hotel crash. So in this event, Toke is back, and their mission is to frame AIs for crashing the space hotel to make it look like AI shouldn't have this much control over stuff in the world. In the other timelines, this mission succeeded, and they labeled this hospitality AI named Estella a monster, and it furthered the discord between humans and AIs. But they're here to change that. There's this whole backstory about Estella's creation and how she had a twin sister named Elizabeth as a result of a cloning experiment. The cloning experiment failed and Elizabeth was scrapped, but she was still functional when a Toke member found her, the same Toke member that Vivy saved in the first Singularity point. He decided to take her in and use her to execute this plan. Vivy and her end up having one of the best fights in the show, and then Estella evacuates everybody on board and ends up being looked at as a hero. This sequence was beautiful. There are these really memorable scenes in this part. The scene where Elizabeth was breaking down from the virus was super emotional and it was perfectly executed. It hit you right in the soft spot. The scene where Stella and Beth were sacrificing themselves and Beth was singing to the passengers on the evacuation ships was fire too. Elizabeth also disobeyed her master because his plan involved him dying on the ship. Thought he was going to die to frame her, so she had a hand in changing the timeline herself as well. This sequence definitely delivered in every aspect, and I really think this sequence is really cool and a really strong storytelling wise. The third Singularity point was the metal float, which was this off-the-grid factory for AIs. Vivy and Matsumoto's mission is to shut it down pretty much. This sequence is where the story takes like a different turn. So to lay out some background, Diva is the first AI of her kind. And there are a few AI that were created based off her design, and you already met two of them. They're called sisters. You met two of them. They're Elizabeth and Estella. In this sequence, you meet another one named Grace, who is a nurse in AI. All of the sisters know how to sing, and they sing Diva songs, because Diva is like the prototype. Grace is married to this doctor that's basically the guy who created the factory, but he believes that AI and humans should evolve at the same rate, so he thinks that the factory can get in the way of that. There's a pretty big twist though. Grace is pretty much the factory, so Vivy had to kill her to stop the factory, which she does eventually. After the fact, Vivy meets with the doctor again in the same spot where the doctor proposed to Grace, and he kills himself. But when Vivy witnesses this, Vivy encounters a fatal error and shuts down completely. This sequence is pretty good. It's pretty emotional, and I think the scene where the doctor like actually guided Vivy to his wife was like pretty sad. I ain't gonna lie, because he eventually had to accept the fact that this was necessary, even if it meant that his wife had to die, no matter what. The sequence is fire, in my opinion. The last singularity point is Ophelia's suicide. This one's a little different from the others because it isn't Vivy carrying out this mission, it's Diva. After the last sequence, Diva eventually took control of Vivy because Vivy was absent. At this point, Diva is a big singer and she's finally getting the audience that she deserves, and she's having a big concert where she's closing the show out. In this same show, there is another sister performer named Ophelia. In the alternate timeline, she committed suicide, sparking a lot of dialogues about how AIs could be considered being very close to humans. So Diva interacts with her and tries to make her reconsider, but after her performance, she sees this look on her face. So Masamoto follows her while Diva tracks down the same Toke member that she saved in the first singularity point. Well, Vivy saved in the first singularity point. The Toke member captures her and affects her with this virus that will completely erase Diva and leave only Vivy, since he wants to ask Vivy a question, but Vivy wasn't there. They have another one of the best fights in the show that I enjoyed a lot. Like, I enjoyed a fuck ton. Meanwhile, Masamoto finds out that Ophelia's old friend Antonio is behind her death in the other timeline, and he's doing it because he only wants her to sing for him. They both end up dying, and Diva puts on her last performance before she gets completely erased. They show her get erased in the archives in front of Vivy, was actually like a really gorgeous ass scene. This scene is gorgeous. Like, I'm really like, this scene left me speechless for a second because this part has so much symbolism in it that I'm going to talk about a little later. This definitely shattered my expectations for the last like singularity point, and I thoroughly enjoyed this part in this sequence of these episodes. After Ophelia's mission, Vivy is now back and she's unable to sing because of a mental block, but she's also trying to combat that by writing her own song to help her sing. So now she's being used as this exhibit in the AI museum. What they did right here is super clever, I'm not gonna lie. So there's this boy named Osama, shut up, that visits her often, and years go by until they eventually reveal two things. It reveals that Osama is the doctor from the beginning of the show that put Vivy on this mission to begin with, and someone called him Masamoto, implying that he's also responsible for Masamoto's creation. This twist was actually pretty genius, and how they presented it was actually super creative. Now is a good time to explain what the archives are, since there's another twist involving it. The archives are basically a place where AIs get information and they get updated, so most of the AIs use the archives pretty often. Now at this point, Vivy and Masamoto found out that these changes that they've been making to these singularity points haven't deviated enough from the original outcomes. Therefore, that same massacre from the first episode still happens. Plus, is the archives is actually behind it, and they're trying to destroy all human life and have Earth occupied by AIs. So they link up with Toke. Vivy and Masamoto link up with Toke, and this is like a new, completely reinvented Toke, because they want AIs and humans to live in harmony pretty much now. So they link up with Toke to stop them, but they can only stop if Vivy sings a song that she came up with, which is a good twist. Long story short, she fails the first time, but that same doctor actually sacrifices himself to send Vivy back to the beginning of the massacre earlier on in the day. It's also revealed that the archives left the fate up to Vivy. She was the first AI to create something out of her own freedom, so her song is the code to shut everything down, which is a nice touch. It's a really cool touch. I like what they did right there. On the second attempt, she gets another chance and ends up singing the song on the main stage that she wanted to perform at all this time, which is another great touch. This is definitely the best part of the show, easily. This scene was absolutely jaw-dropping. In the end, they stop the AI. Masamoto saves her from this fallen satellite, and Vivy ends up crashing. But in the after credit scenes, they show rebooted Vivy and Masamoto, and she ends up singing the same tone that she started with in the anime in the beginning. My nigga, the finale for this was beautiful. The storytelling in the anime as a whole was actually pretty masterful, and it makes sense that the authors of ReZero made this. This story is one of a kind, and it went far and beyond what I was expecting. The plot twists, the perfectly placed backstory, and this unique way that they told the story made this anime feel super refreshing. And honestly, there's nothing like it out there that I've seen, I should say. But the story in this is like phenomenal, like 10 out of 10. Like, story is really good. Now, let's move on to the characters and the character interactions. The characters of Vivy have a surprising amount of depth to them. Like, it's kind of impressive how much character development they pack within these 13 episodes. I love all the characters in this show. It's just like in ReZero when I was talking about every character has a vital role in the story. It's the same here. Everyone is vital to the story no matter where they appear. No characters are wasted in this anime, and I really appreciate that because a lot of anime can just throw away some characters. Vivy is actually, in my opinion, one of the best MCs of all time. She has an absurd amount of depth, and I like how the show kind of leaves the whole Vivy and Diva thing up to the viewer's interpretation. The whole Vivy and Diva dynamic was super cool too because they were two completely different beings. Vivy was a more timid and serious personification. She lived with a fear of singing even though that was her whole objective, but she wanted to help people anytime that she could, and even going as far as trying to alter the timeline to do it. Diva was what Vivy really wanted to be. She was fun, she was always smiling, she was confident, and she was an amazing singer. It was a cool touch having Vivy lock herself in a room inside the archives. I think that's some crazy cool symbolism. I think that when Vivy saw the doctor off himself, I think that she locked herself in that room because of her fear of her reality, creating the Diva alter ego in the process. And I think in the very end, when she was rebooted, I think they finally became one, which is goated. Is a go-to way to present that. If that's what they were going for, that's really crazy. Like, that's really good. Vivy is an amazing character, and I would argue that she's definitely one of the best written characters in anime history. Like, it's bold, but man, like, they really wrote her crazy. Matsumoto is a really good companion. He's funny, he's realistic, and low-key, he's actually super caring. I love how laid back and comical his dialogue is, and I love the dynamic he brings to him and Vivy's relationship. He's the more calculated one, and that's always thinking from a logical standpoint. And he's kind of cold-hearted a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. Especially when you consider the fact that he stopped Vivy from saving her friend. He always scolds Vivy for not sticking to the plan, but he understands and respects her decision because he knows that her actions come from a good place. Their dynamic is kind of like a beauty behind the madness type thing. On the surface, it seems really chaotic because it really is, but it works out and it's still super functional. By the end of their journey, we get to see them become super close, and it was definitely fun to watch them grow together and go on this adventure with them. The sisters were all great additions to the story. They were all based off of Vivy, so they all ended up being good people. Estella was super selfless during the Space Hotel thing. She deserved the hero title for what she did in the Space Hotel. Elizabeth literally got a whole ass redemption arc right in front of Vivy and Estella's eyes, and Matsumoto's eyes. Grace was cool. Even though she was powering the factory, I don't know if y'all noticed this, but there was a very small detail when Vivy killed her. It was like she was smiling, so it's kind of symbolized kind of like an act of mercy. Like, I think that was like a really good touch. And Ophelia is a good representation of a lot of music artists out there. She doesn't have much confidence in her abilities, even though she's amazing. If you are an artist and you find yourself watching this, bro, snap out of it. Your work is great. You are great. And if you're not great right now, you can always get great. You have time. Put your time in. Her character was really amazing to me because she was super relatable. I've literally been in her shoes as far as my artistry goes, so Ophelia's character really resonated with me. Once again, I think that all the characters in this show are done extremely well. The doctor that sent him, Osama, shut up. Osama was good. The leader of Toke was good. Even the guy that Vivy saved in the first singularity point was great. Every single one of these characters played their role so well, and I just love it. I love when all the characters mean something in the show. All the sisters were good. Even the little girl in the beginning of the show that called Vivy for the first time when she was known as Diva. She had a big part at the end. That was cool. There was a little moment with her at the end where she was like, I know this isn't real because you will never call me Diva. And the girls call her Diva. I was like, yo, man, like, y'all are really showing out. Y'all are really showing out, bro. And I love this. Every character in this show is so good. The character writing is something that people should take notes on. A lot of animation write their characters this way and present their characters this way. Vivy did a really good job with his character writing. Amazing job. And thank you to all the voice actors that worked on this. Y'all all contributed and y'all all made this show one of the best anime I've ever seen. Now, let's move on to looks, presentation, and music. This anime was done by Wit Studio, and gang, they did their shit with this one. I'm not gonna lie. This is honestly one of the best looking anime I've ever seen. Not even talking about the fights, which is crazy. from the scenery, from the space hotel, the performances, and the AI tower. It's just some really jaw-dropping shit in this anime. I think my personal favorites are the performances though, cause those visuals paired with the amazing music in this show just make for these perfect ass grand ass scenes. The fight scenes are phenomenal too. They feature some of the best choreography. As far as like hand-to-hand fight scenes, they're definitely among the best, like among the top dogs. I'm talking like this is like on par, if not better, with like God of High School, like Jujutsu Kaisen and stuff like that. Like this is crazy. And the music in this anime, whew. Oh, I got another soundtrack to listen to. The music in this anime is different. The music in this anime is on par, if not better, than the music in Your Name, which is crazy because I never thought it would get better than that. I thought Your Name was the best music I've ever heard in anime, and I thought it wasn't gonna get any better. It's not just a track or two, too. It's an album full of raw ass songs that are in this show. Every song in this show is good. None of them hit harder than Fluorite Eyes though. That Fluorite Eyes song, man, that's different. Now keep in mind, all these songs are in Japanese, so I don't even know what they saying for real. But this song just feels extremely grand. It hits me hard because it perfectly encapsulates the whole journey. Every time I listen to this song, it reminds me of this amazing ass show. Makes me think of the time with all these amazing ass characters. It makes me think of Vivy's beautiful journey and its conclusion, which makes my listening experience 10 times better. The music in this anime is crazy good. I'm glad they made music such an important element of this show. It just makes it easier for them to get emotion out of me while I'm watching it. And they definitely got a lot of emotion out of me when I'm watching it. This show is beautiful, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you to the whole sound team that worked on this and the whole animation team. Wit Studio, you made a crazy one. You made a crazy one right here, man. I didn't expect this to be this good. I definitely didn't expect to go into this anime expecting one of the best anime of all time, but man, that's what I got. And I couldn't be happier with this show if I'm keeping it a bean. This show definitely requires you to pay attention, but if you get the full understanding of the story like I did and you watch it all the way through, this can damn near bring you to tears. That's how special and beautiful this show is, in my opinion. This is one of those rare cases where anime does every aspect to damn near perfection. This show's story is pretty complex, but it's still perfect. I wouldn't change a thing about this story. The character writing is done masterfully. I wouldn't change a thing about this character writing. And the looks and the music are amongst the greats. I think the music is like at the top, in my opinion. I love this show. Definitely give this a watch. This is an experience that I'll never forget personally. And this is an experience that I want you to have too. I want you to have these same feelings that I'm feeling right now. Thank you to everyone that had a hand in creating this. You made something super special, extremely special. But that's all from me, man. As always, man, have a great day. Peace.